mishava pruta. A ben Noach is killed for theft even if he stole less than a shava pruta. V'lo nita lehishavam. But I will say again, if he does steal less than a shava pruta, ultimately again, lo nita lehishavam means he can't go ahead and give it back. I will say now what's happening over here. If you look at Rashi, Rashi is actually on Ayin Beis Amud Aleph. So Rashi is lo nita lehishavam. So we'll say here's the interesting dynamic. On one hand, if I steal less than a shava pruta from you, so the assumption is on less than a shava pruta, people are mochel. People are mochel. Then now nobody's makbid on less than a shava pruta. Despite that, a ben noach is chayiv for theft. Remember, theft is one of the sheva mitzvos b'nei noach, and as we've already established for in Sanhedrin, all of the sheva mitzvos b'nei noach are punishable by death. So by definition, a ben noach is killed ultimately again for theft of less than a shava pruta. But there's no way for him to go ahead and really fulfill returning it. Now we'll discuss what that means in just a moment. Says the Gemara, if you hold that Meshicha by an Oved Kochavim is not Kona, like Amemar does, Amemar holds that Meshicha is not Kona, then Amay Ne'erag. Then why would the Akum ultimately be killed? At the end of the day, the Akum didn't really acquire anything, because if Meshicha is not Kona, the Yisrael still owns it. To which the Gemara answers, you're right, Mishum de Tzari the Yisrael. Ultimately, again, the Akum is killed because of the Tsar that he causes a Jew. The Jew caused the Jew Tsar, ultimately, again, through the theft, and therefore he's put to death for that. Top of Ayin base. Umaylo nitan lehishavon. What does it mean that I will say it's not given to return? De'enu b'toras hishavon. What that means is that technically speaking, there is no obligation of return in this situation, because since the Yisrael is ultimately mevater, he yields on less than a shava pruta, there is no concept of a hishavas hagizela. If that's the case, ema seif. I will say, look at the end of that brayso. If now, I will say, so here's the case. Ben Noach number 1 steals less than a shava pruta from me. Then Ben Noach number 2 comes along and steals it from Ben Noach number 1. So we'll say, what's the halacha? Ben Noach number 2 is killed for the theft from Ben Noach number 1. So Bishlam Reisha Mishum Ditzar the Yisrael. So I understand in the Reisha of the Brayso, the reason why the first Ben Noach is killed is because he caused pain to a Jew. Ela Seifa my Ovid. But we'll say ultimately again, what's going on in the Seifa? Right? When Akum number 1 steals from Akum number 2, ultimately again, why is there a death penalty for that? So the Gemara says, Shmamina Mishicha ba'ovid kochavim kona. Right? I will say you have to say that what? Akum number 2 is killed because Akum number 1 in fact did acquire the less than the Shava Pruta. How did he acquire it? Mishicha. And from here you see that what? Mishicha is kona. So Akum number 1 acquired it through Mishicha. When Akum number 2 steals it from Akum number 1, that is a bona fide act of theft. And a Ben Noach is killed for a bona fide act of theft. So what I say, so the Gemara seems to have successfully proven that halacha l'maisa, Meshicha is kona by an akum. Good. Hahu gavra damli lechavres. Well, let's listen to this case. There was a man who said to his friend, "I mizabnina la laha ara lacha mizabnina la." I have a parcel of land, and I'm not selling it now. But if and when I do decide to sell it, I'm going to sell it to you. Okay. So what happens? Azal zabna le'ishachrinas. We'll say some amount of time goes by, whatever amount of time, and what happens? I decide to sell the land, but I sell it to someone else. I have this conversation with Ruvain. I say, Ruvain, I'm going to go ahead and sell you the land when I decide to sell it, and what it turns out, but later on when I decide to sell, I end up selling it to Shimon. So I say, obviously Ruvain is going to be a bit upset. So what happens? Rav Yosef kana kama. Rav Yosef says, my sale to Shimon is void. Rather, again, ultimately, again, I am bound in my sale to Ruvain. So Rav Yosef says that, again, I am bound to Ruvain. Since I promised Ruvain that when I sell it, I'm going to go ahead and give it to him. So therefore, halacha l'maisa, I'm bound to him. So the Gemara says, 1 second. Amar Abaye, v'halo pasak. But 1 second. How could I be bound to Ruvain? We never even agreed on a price. As well, so remember, again, all I said to Ruvain was, listen, one day when I go ahead and if I sell this field, I'm going to sell it to you. But there was no discussion about price. We didn't agree on terms or anything like that. Look at Rashi. V'halo pasak. I will say it's Rashi. It is Rashi in the short lines, 4 lines down. V'halo pasak. Rishon damim. V'lo samcha daiti akinyan. To savra im yertza lachzor yer ba'alavadam. So we'll say again, How could I be bound to sell it to Reuven when we never established price? We're never makabel kinyan, just even on the agreement. So the Gemara says, Umanat Taimra, Hecha de la Pasek lo kana. Are you telling me that wherever, again, there is not an agreement on price, so a purchaser can't acquire the object? After all, the Gemara says, Umanat Taimra. And from where do we know that if you haven't established price, then ultimately, again, the purchaser cannot acquire the object? Isnan, we learned it in our Mishnah. Hamocher yeno lo ovid kochavim. If I'm selling my wine to an akum, we'll say this is our Mishnah. Pasok achlo madad damav mutarin. So we'll say if we agreed on a price, and then the akum measured out the wine, so the proceeds of the sale are permitted. What's the logic there? Because essentially once we agree on the price, then what? It's as if the transaction has been completed, and now just simply that's money that the akum owes me. When the akum goes there and then touches the wine, that's not my wine that is becoming yayin esech. Rather what? That's his wine that's becoming yayin esech. Madad at shelo pasak. But ultimately, again, if the akum measured out the wine first, before we agreed upon the price, then what? Damav asurin. The money, they will say the proceeds are going to be asur. Why? Because essentially it became yayim akum while it is still in my possession, and therefore halacha lemaisa, the money is going to, the proceeds are asur. So we'll say, what do you see from here? So the Gemara says, so what do you see from here? You see from here that lemaisa transaction cannot be considered complete unless, of course, the purchase price has been agreed upon. So the Gemara says, my havi Allah. So the Gemara says, so what's the bottom line resolution? Kid the Kamina. What do you mean? What happened? What's the bottom line resolution? We just proved it from the Mishnah that a transaction could only be considered complete ultimately, again, when the price is agreed upon. I will say, so you think to yourself, isn't that obvious that a transaction could only be complete based on when there is an agreement in the price? So I will say, it could very well be that the Havamina is that I might have thought that, look, if we're doing a business transaction, there are marketplace values, right? So if I'm going ahead and I'm purchasing a barrel of wine from someone, there's a going rate. So we agree that whatever the going rate is what I'm going to pay. That's the Havamina. So I agree to go ahead and say to Reuven, listen, I'm not selling my field now, but when I sell it, I'm going to sell it to you. Then when I sell it to Shimon. So again, there's a Havamina to say that what? That Lamaisa maybe it belongs to Reuven, because I promised to sell it to Reuven, and the agreement was whatever the fair value of the piece of land is what I'm going to sell to you. Kamash will not know that in the absence of an agreed upon price, a transaction can never be binding. So the Gemara says, So the Gemara says, no. The reason why we have to prove this from another source and just not from Yayin Esech is because I might have thought that maybe Yayin Esech is different. As we've seen over and over again, so Yayin Esech has its own unique set of chumras. So I might have thought that this halacha, that you require a setting of the price in order to avoid Yayin Esech situations, maybe is a chumra by Yayin Esech, but maybe it doesn't apply in other cases. Kamashman Rabba, that in all cases, in order for a transaction to be binding, there must be an agreed upon purchase price. Tashma, Dam Rav Idi Bar Avin, Uvda Hava Be Rav Chisda Be Rafuna. So let's listen to this. Rav Idi Bar Avin said, there was a case that came up in Rav Chisda's base medrash. They couldn't resolve it there. Rav Chisda took it to Rav Huna's base medrash. Upashte Meha. And I will say they solved it from the following Mishnah. I will say the same type of case of where somebody agreed to sell someone something, they then ended up selling it to someone else. There was never an agreed upon purchase price with the first individual. So they dealt with this case and they resolved it from the following. Mashach Chamarov Upalav. This is actually an interesting case. Let's say again, I am purchasing something from Reuven. So Reuven is transporting product to me on the back of his donkeys or on his workers. I pull the donkeys or the workers into my home. Bein pasak ad shelo madad, ubein madad ad shelo pasak lo kana. We'll say whether Reuven and I agreed on the purchase price before I measured out the product, or whether I measured out the product before a purchase price, lo kana. We'll say I did not acquire the wares. Why not? Ushneim yichol l'lachsaben, and therefore as a result, both of us have the ability to renege. We'll say, so the idea over here is because the act of pulling a laden donkey into my home is halachically insignificant, right? In order to go ahead and acquire movable property, either I have to actually pay money or I have to lift up the product. I have to move it in some way. But just to pull the donkey into my rishus does not do anything. However, pirkan v'chnisan l'soch beso. But if I unload the wares from the donkey, from the back of the worker, and I bring them into my home, then, we'll say first wide line, ayin bezim adalef, then pasak ad shelo madad, then I will say, if we agreed upon the price, even if I did not yet measure out the product, neither of us could renege on the transaction. Madad atshela pasak. But if I measured out the product, and we did not yet set a purchase price, I will say both of them have the ability to renege on the transaction. So we'll say, again, same theme. What do you see from here? That Lamaisa, no transaction is binding until the point where there is an agreed upon price. See, even if I'm doing Hagbah, I'm doing Mashiach, I'm bringing it into my Rishus, if there is not an agreed upon price, either of the parties involved in the transaction have the ability to renege. Good. We'll say there was a man who said to his friend, I will say, now watch this. This is actually a different kind of case. So remember, this is a takeoff of the first case. Same type of situation. I say to Reuben, listen, I'm not selling my property right now, but if and when I do decide to sell my property, I will sell it to you for 100 zuz. So we'll say, as opposed to the previous case where there was no articulation of a purchase price, here there is an articulation of a purchase price. Azal zabna le'inish achrina b'meya ve'esrin. We'll say, what ends up happening? I end up selling it to Shimon for 120 zuz. I promised Reuben I was going to sell it to him for 100 zuz. I sold it to Shimon for 120 zuz. So we'll say, so what's the shayla? The shayla is, who is the owner of the property? Amar Rav Kahana, Amar Rav Kahana, Kana Kama. Rav Kahana said, ultimately again, the first purchaser ultimately acquires it. Now we'll say, if you look at Rashi, Rashi says, the hapasak v'kanu minei. So we'll say, the case over here, according to Rashi, is two things. Number one, that when I first made this promise to Reuben, we did Kabbalah's kinyan. So we'll say, so we did some type of kinyan to make the promise binding, and furthermore what? There was an articulation and an agreement on purchase price. I said to Reuben, I'll sell it to you for 100 zuz. So I subsequently sell it to Shimon for 120. Rav Kahana says Reuben acquires it. Maskif Rav Yaakov Minar Pekod. So ultimately, Rav Yaakov of Nar Pekod says the following: Hi Zuzi Ansuhu. The truth is, we'll say this case is different. Literally, again, it's a financial onus. What does it mean? It's a financial onus. Look at Rashi. Zuzi Ansuhu. Ze shenasam lo mea ve'esrim ansu lo machra v'chol kama de lo yav yilei kulei hai lo hava bedaiti lizabuna v'ihu im mizabnina le b'shavia ka'amar le. Let's listen to this. Really, so Rav Yaakov Narpakot says as follows: why did I sell? Why did I sell? Because at the end of the day, I got an offer I can't refuse. So I was like, it's not that I wanted to sell. Set usually everybody has a price at some point in time. So what I always said to Reuben is, Reuben, listen, in the time that I sell, I'm going to sell to you for 100 zuz because that's the fair value of the land. Shimon sweeps into town, and what happens? He offers me something much bigger. So Rav Yaakov Napakot says, Zuzi Ansu. You see, Rav Yaakov Napakot says, my agreement to Reuven was, in the event that I sell under normative circumstances, I'm going to sell it to you for 100 zuz. Rav Yaakov of Nar Pekod essentially says, this is non-normative circumstances. This is not a regular case. He's offering me too much money to refuse, and therefore, again, I have every right to accept it. V'hilchasa, everybody who does the halacha follow, ki Rav Yaakov mi Nar Pekod. I will say in this case, halacha follows Rav Yaakov of Nar Pekod, that what? That halacha l'maisa, I have the right to go ahead and accept the higher offer, and therefore go ahead and sell it to Shimon for 120 zuz. Let's see if you look at Rashi just a moment. Rashi says, Zuzi Ansu, Ze Shenasa Lamev Esim Ansu Lamachra. The one who offered me, Shimon, offered me 120 zuz. I will say, literally, Ansu Lamachra means it's like extenuating circumstances. I had to sell. I will say, if I would have gotten an offer, I had no choice. If I didn't get such a high offer, I would not have sold right now. So we'll say, since Rav Yaakov Napakot says this, we'll say, the way business transactions work is that they're based on some type of normative smichas das, some type of normative mindset. So when I say to Reuben, listen, when I sell, I'm going to sell you for 100 zuz. What I'm saying is, Reuven, all things being equal, at the end of the day, if and when I sell, I'll sell you 200 zuz. I'll say, but everyone understands that inherent in that transaction, if somebody rolls in and offers me something bigger, I was saying, like there's even, you see this even like in real estate law today, right? Ultimately, again, you could put in a contract, right? And I think the contract can even be accepted, but there's a certain point in time, still, even after a contract is accepted, I think, right? Is that correct? That you could still accept a higher offer. No? Okay. Fine. Good.
But
Good.
usually looking at the offers.
I'm sorry?
Haven't accepted.
Otherwise it'd mean nothing.
Well, there's a Kabbalah's king, meaning that there's an understanding that under normative circumstances, this is how we operate. But if it's non-normative circumstances, if there's some type of outlier circumstance here, I'm not bound by this. So essentially, what Yaakov Narpakot says like this, that Allah Lamaisa, Ruvain, I'm agreeing to sell to you under normal circumstances. But should some aberration from the norm occur, I'm not bound by this agreement. I will say ultimately again, this is how the halacha follows. Amalei, also listen to this. So the halacha is as follows. So let's say again, I'm going to go ahead, Rashi. Listen to this. I'm going to go ahead and sell a property to Ruvain. And I sell, and that's, it shows you can plug this into any case you want. But I say to Ruvain, I agree to sell you the property, and I want it to be valuated, I want it to be evaluated, not evaluated, right? Appraised, that's the better word. I want it to be appraised, ultimately, again, bitlasa by 3. So the shaila is, what does that mean? So, afilu trey migo tlasa. So we'll say ultimately again, so that means I don't need a consensus of all 3, but as long as the majority of the 3 ultimately go ahead and say a particular price, that'll be the price for the transaction. I will say now the chiddush over here is, I'm using the lashon of shuma. Shuma means evaluation. Shuma is usually the lashon used by where? By a beis din. How does a beis din operate? A beis din operates with majorities. So because you use lashon of shuma, I'm saying again, as long as 2 out of the 3 agree on a price, that'll be the price we'll go forward with. Kida amri bitlasa. If I say to Reuven, I'm going to sell the property for the amount that 3 appraisers say, that 3 people say, then what does that mean? Ad amri bitlasa. Then I will say I'm only bound by the price when all 3 agree on that price. Kiddush shani barba. What happens if I say, Reuven, say the property as evaluated by 4 people, as appraised by 4. So I'll say, here's the problem. 4 is not a beis din. So once I'm saying the number 4, what am I saying? Ad amri barba. But say ultimately again, what that means is that I'm only going to be bound by the price if all 4 people, all 4 appraisers agree on the price. But say all the more so if I say as 4 people say. So let's listen to this. If Reuven and I agree that ultimately again we're going to appraise the land based on the opinion of 3. So what happens? 3 people come along and appraise it. So say, so watch this. I go Reuven, I'm going to sell Reuven a piece of land. So what happens? We say we're going to go with the opinion of 3. Okay, so like we said before, we need all 3 to agree. What happens? I'm dragging my feet a little bit. So Reuven gets his own appraisers, right? He hires 3. So what happens? They come back with the price. I'm not happy with the price. I say I want to hire my own 3, right? Or I want to hire another 3. So I say, so what's the halacha? So I say to Reuven, I want to get another 3 who I think are more experienced. Rabbi says, I have a right to go ahead and ultimately say I want another 3. And I will say now, the I in this case is buyer or the seller. So I will say, either buyer or seller have it essentially again to call in another opinion. Maskif Rav Yoshua, Mimai Dahani Kimutfe, Damahani Kimutfe. So we'll say, Rav Yoshua says, I don't understand why you should be allowed to do that. Who says the second 3 know better than the first 3? And therefore, and the Allah Rav Yoshua will say that as long as the first set of 3 who were called in are considered to be credible appraisers, neither one of the parties could call in a second appraisal. And I will say, obviously, if Reuven calls in the appraisers and I say, Reuven, these guys, they just got their appraisal certificate online. They don't know what they're talking about. Right? So, okay, so then I could call in a second appraiser. But assuming that the first set of appraisals are perfectly credible, I have no right to order a second appraisal. Good, says the Mishnah. Not us in Shach. So we'll say back to Yain Nesech a little bit. Natal es hamishpach. Umada l'soch tzluchiso shal v'kucham. V'chazer umada l'soch tzluchiso shal Yisrael. So listen to this interesting case. Same case, I am selling wine ultimately again to an akum. How am I measuring out the wine? So let's say I take from my barrel or from my flask, and I take a funnel, that's a mishpach, is a funnel. I take a funnel and I pour it into the vessel of the akum. So we'll say, so what happens? So then I take that same funnel and I pour my own wine, right? Or I pour wine for a Yisrael. So we'll say, what's the halacha? Im yesh ba akeves yain aser. If the funnel, Rabbi say, has what's called an akeves on the bottom of it, it's going to be aser. So we'll say, Rashi says, akeves is mayim shemis akeves sham tipa san. So we'll say, essentially, the akeves is like some type of lip. Some type of lip at the bottom of the flask, at the bottom of the funnel, right? So we'll say, what happens if there's a lip there, an akeves? Ultimately, again, we're concerned that what? There's some yayin nesech got caught up in there, got stuck over there, and therefore when I subsequently put that into the utensil, or into the jug of the Jew, the jug of the wine of the Yisrael is going to get mixed in with the little droplets of yayin nesech. So the Gemara says, we'll say if I'm pouring from one utensil to another utensil, es shi'ira mimenu mutter, that which you poured from is mutter, ve'es shi'ira l'socha aser, and ultimately again that which you poured into is going to be aser. We'll see in the Gemara what exactly that case is. But what we're going to start to say a discussion about the funnel. So again, if I'm pouring wine from my barrel into the utensil of an akum, so what the Gemara says is, what the Mishnah says is as follows. If the funnel, and then I take that funnel and I use it to pour wine for a Jew, so we'll say if that funnel has a lip on it, then what? Then the mice, again, the wine of the Jew will be aser. Says the Gemara, Tanan Hasam, Hanitzok, Vakitafros, Umash Ketovech, Enochibor, Lo Tuma, Velo the Tarab. So it's like, we learned this, we've actually quoted this before. Nitzok means a flow. Rashi says over here, Nitzok, Kiluach Tzinor, Haba Milamala Lamata, Bizakifa Kimarze Shalgagin. So I'll say, so this is a flow, which flows from item A to item B. Or again, I will say, Kitafros. Rashi says, is Main Habon Milamala Lamata Derech Madron. This is liquid that flows via a slope. And Mashke Tofiach. And we'll say if you have liquid which is wet enough to be able to convey moisture to something else, all of these things, eno chibor, we'll say they do not create a connection, lo l'tuma v'lo l'tara, neither for tuma purposes nor for tara purposes. Ha'ashboren, we'll say ashboren means if you have some type of cleft in the ground and liquid, right? Let's say water collects in there, chibor l'tuma l'tara. We'll say that is considered to be connected for tuma and tara purposes, which means that if somebody who was tamei were to touch one part of that body of water, the entire body would become tamei. Amar Avuna, so we'll say, so why is this important for us? Amar Avuna, nitzuk viktafrus umashe tofeach chibor le'inyan yayin nesach. So we'll say, Avuna comes along and says, even though what you just said might be true for tuma purposes, it's not true for yayin nesach purposes. That I will say, ultimately again, and what we're going to focus on is the flow. A flow has the ability to connect two utensils for yayin nesech purposes. Amrli Rav Nachman Rav Huna min Alachah. So Rav Nachman said to Rav Huna, from where do you know this? From where do you know that ultimately, again, a flow connects two utensils for yayin nesech purposes? So the Gemara says, Ilema midisnan. If you want to say you learned it from the Mishnah we just quoted above, Hanitzuk v'aketafus ha'mash ketofech inu chibur lo tumo lo taro. So if you want to learn from the Mishnah we just quoted, namely that the nitzuk, the ketafris, and mash ketofech do not create a connection for tumah purposes. The tumah l'taro hu d'lo havichibor, hala inyan yayin nesach havichibor. Ultimately, again, in what you're darshaning is for tumah and taro there's no connection, but for yayin nesach there is. Well, that can't be so because in Maseifa ha'ashboren chibor l'tumah l'taro. So we'll say, what does it say at the end? The ashbor, so which is the body of water in a cleft in the ground. That is considered to be connected for tumah and taro purposes. You're going to darshan there l'tumah l'taro hu havichibor la'inyan nesach lo havichibor. So we'll say that obviously wouldn't make sense. You're going to say it's only a chibor for tumah and taro, but not a chibor for yayin nesach. That can't be. So therefore, the diak is not good. Ella meha leka lamashmino. You're right. Rather, from this mishnah that we just quoted before, you can't learn anything about a nitzuk being chibor. So where does he learn it from? Tanan, natalas hamishpach umada l'soch tzluchiso shel ovi kochavim. The chazar umada l'soch tzluchiso sheisas. We'll say, watch this. He just re-quoted our mishnah. What did our mishnah say? We'll say, I am a Jew. Baruch Hashem. And what happens? I'm selling wine to an akum. So what am I doing? I'm going ahead and I'm pouring my wine from my barrel into the jug of the akum. How am I doing that? Via a funnel. What does the Mishnah say? If the funnel has a lip on it, where there's a concern that there's going to be some yayin esech that gets caught up in the lip, if I then go ahead and take that same funnel and I use it to pour wine for a Jew, I'll say, what's the halacha? The wine of the Jew is going to be aser. So the Gemara says as follows. Say im, will say im yesh ba keves. So the Mishnah says in the use of this funnel, if the funnel has a lip, yayin aser. Ultimately, again, subsequently, when I pour wine for the Jew, the Jewish wine is going to be maser. So we'll say, so says the Gemara, what's going on over here? How exactly does the wine caught up in the lip of the funnel become yayin nesech? We'll say, how is that becoming yayin nesech? So the Gemara says, haya keves yayin b'may kamisra. We'll say, how does the wine that is caught up in the lip of the funnel become yayin nesech? The Gemara says, lav benitzuk. We'll say, I'll tell you exactly how. We'll say it's through the flow. We'll say, remember again, what we've established already is, how is it that when I pour wine from my barrel into the utensil of the akum, we'll say, how does the wine of the utensil of the akum become yayin esech? How does it become yayin esech? We'll say, remember again, because we always make the assumption that what? That there are some residual leftover droplets of wine in the bottom of the kli. Because remember again, the jug of the akum could be sitting on the table. I'm pouring. The akum's nowhere in sight. Yet we know that as soon as the wine gets into his utensil, it becomes yayin esech. Why? Because you operate under the assumption that there are droplets of wine on the bottom of his utensil. So we'll say, so now watch this. So how does that impact the funnel? It must be that we'll say everything is becoming usher through nitzuk, through flow. In other words, that when I'm pouring from my barrel into the akum's barrel, so then what happens? The wine hits the droplets on the bottom of his barrel. That transforms the wine into yayin esech. We'll say, but what does that do? That doesn't only aser, that tuma now, or that isser now goes back up. Nitzuk, a flow, creates a halachic connection, which means ultimately, again, the wine coming through the funnel is already aser even before it hits the bottom. That's why what? That's why halacha l'maisa again, even the droplets that are caught in the lip of the funnel are going to be aser as well. So the Gemara says, Shema mina nitzuk chibur. You see from here that a flow creates a connection. So the Gemara says, no. Tani Rav Chisda. So Rav Chisda comes along and says, Shepachasto tzluchiso. So ultimately, the Gemara says what? I'll say, look at Rashi just a moment. Shepachasto tzluchiso. Vachi katani la. So the Gemara says, V'natla mishapech umadel soch tzluchis she'ovei kochavim v'hari pachasto tzluchiso v'chazar umadel soch tzluchis she'Yisrael. Imish Rabbi says, the Gemara says, no. What's the case of Rabbi say? The case over here is where halacha l'maisa. I filled up the jug of wine enough. I filled up the akum's jug enough. That's what Rabbi was saying. That l'maisa, the wine, the wine level goes above the bottom of the funnel. So we'll say, so this is not a din in sluchas. We'll say, if you can imagine, the funnel extends into the utensil of the akum. The case where it says, the Gemara is, I've filled up the jug enough that the bottom of the funnel is beneath the wine surface. So it's submerged in the wine. So this is not an issue ultimately, again, of nitzuk. This is not an issue of the flow being a connection. Rather, what's happening over here? This is an issue ultimately, again, at the bottom of the funnel, mamish coming in contact with yayin esech itself. That's why, again, we are concerned that there are droplets ultimately, again, in the lip, which is why if you use that same funnel to go ahead and measure out wine for Yisrael, the Yisrael's wine is going to become aser. To which the Gemara says, but what happens, again, if you didn't submerge the funnel in the wine of the akum? What would be the halacha? Lo. But it would appear that what? That the halacha would be that the bottom of the funnel, that we would not be concerned that it has dropped. So the way we're setting it up over here is the only reason I'm concerned about droplets of yayin esech in the lip of the funnel is why? Because the funnel itself was submerged in the wine in the utensil of the akum. But it sounds like if the funnel was not submerged in the utensil of the wine of the akum, then what? I would not be choshesh for yayin esech droplets in the lip of the funnel. To which the Gemara says, well, tifshot tinitzok eno chibur. Well, so then I can learn out from that what? That a flow by itself does not create a chibur. that a flow by itself, we'll say from one utensil to another, does not create the connection between both of the utensils. To which the Gemara says, "Lo, pachastot luchiso tifshot lachad aser nitzok tiboy." To which the Gemara will say, "No. What I know for sure is as follows. So I know for sure is here. Let's start with what we know for sure. That if I'm a Jew pouring my wine from my barrel into the utensil of the akum, I'm doing so via a funnel. The funnel is inside the utensil, the akum's utensil. I fill up the wine level high enough that what? That the bottom of the of the funnel is immersed inside, is submerged inside the wine of the akum. We'll say, and then I take that same funnel and I use it to pour out wine of the Yisrael. The wine of the Yisrael is going to become aser. Why? Why? Because there's a chashash, assuming that what the funnel has a lip, because there's a chashash that droplets of yayin nesech were stuck in the lip, and therefore again render the wine, the subsequent wine of the Yisrael is going to be aser. That's the case I know. That's the case I know. What's the safek case? What I don't know about say is nitzuk. What I don't know is what is the status of flow. Then when I have wine flowing from a funnel of a Jew into what? Into the sluchis, into the jug of the akum, and I have to be choshesh that there are droplets of yayin nesech wine on the bottom of the flask of the akum. We'll say, does that flow create an iser, so that the bottom of the flask should become asr? We'll say, even if what? Even if it's never actively submerged beneath the surface of the wine of the akum. To which the Gemara says, Tashma, hama'ar mikli likli. So let's listen to this. If you pour from one utensil to another utensil, as shema'ara mimenu mutter. So we'll say, the utensil you pour from is mutter. Ha de beni asr. We'll say, what do you see from here? Look at Rashi. Hama'ara mikli al kli, sakadai to be Yisrael askina. So we're assuming ultimately again that what? It's a Jew pouring from his kli into the kli of an akum. So we'll say, so what do you see from here? The upper kli, the Yisrael's kli, is going to be mutter. But beni abasar, which means the flow will be asar shmamina nitzok chibur. We'll say, what do you see from here? That a flow creates a connection between the flow and the utensil of destination. So we'll say, but 1 second, that doesn't work. Nitzok chibur afilu digave demana nami lisser. We'll say, if you say that nitzuk is chibur, we'll say, if you say that a flow creates a connection, we'll say, then how far back does that connection go? Should go back to the utensil of origin. Which will say means if you say that nitzuk is chibur, then what? Then we'll say what that means is if I'm pouring from my utensil into the utensil of an akum, then again what you're saying is as soon as that flow hits the bottom of the utensil of the akum, mixes in with droplets of yayin nesech, then what? That should send the Isra Yayin Nesech, and we'll say where? Where? Back to the utensil of origin, back to the Jew's utensil as well, which means that all of the liquid, all of the wine in the Jew's utensil should become Asr as well. We'll say that's a pretty dramatic shita, to which the Gemara says, Halo Kasha. That's not a problem. Why? The kamaktif kitufe. We'll say, because what's the issue over here? Maktif kitufe, we'll say, means that literally he pours in spurts, which I will say means as follows. You know, when you could pour in such a way, we'll say, where essentially, I don't know what the technical term is, but you pour like with a quick flick of the wrist. So what happens? Essentially, that liquid that comes out, we'll say, is what? It is detached from the utensil of origin before it gets ultimately into the kli. So we'll say, so like that is something actually very interesting which happens, which is as follows, which is now, even if you say nitzuk is chibur, even if you say ultimately that a flow creates a connection, as long as that flow is detached from the utensil of origin before it hits the utensil of destination, then even if you say the flow becomes asr, at most what's going to happen is the flow is asr, but it can have no negative impact on the utensil of origin, which is quite interesting. To which the Gemara says, Mikol Makom Nitzuk Chibur. I will say, but bottom line for our purposes, what we seem to be saying is that a flow creates a connection, that the flow itself creates a connection. And I will say, if you were to pour straight, an unbroken flow, from, let's say, the utensil of the Jew into the utensil of the non-Jew, then I will say there was droplets of yayin nesech on the bottom of the utensil of the non-Jew. Then I will say, what would be the halacha? Right? The flow would be aser, and what else would be aser? The Jew's wine, in the original wine as well, which was is quite dramatic. But using that logic, Ema Seif, we'll say, look at the end of the Mishnah. And look at the end of the Bryce, I should say. We'll say the Bryce said that the utensil which you are pouring into is aser. Ha de beni shari. We'll say, but yeah, you could infer from that that it's only the liquid, or it's only the wine that comes to rest in the utensil of destination, which becomes aser, but the flow itself is mutter. You're right. The truth is, you can't derive any kind of conclusions from the Mishnah we just quoted above. So Tashma, so we'll say, so again, understand we're still trying to resolve this. What is the status of flow? What is the status of flow? So Tashma, listen to this. So we'll say, if I'm pouring my wine from the chavis to a bar, I'm pouring it from chavis is the barrel into the bar. Well, so remember again, bar is the wine cistern. So I'm pouring it into the chavis to the bar. So what's the halacha? Kiluach hayorid misvas chavis lemata aser. So let's listen to this. So the flow that comes from the edge of the barrel. Well, say so this must be a case ultimately again, where I guess what we'll call it is the right. So, well, actually, let's explain the case first. So what do we say? Kiluach hayorid misvas chavis lemata. So the flow that comes from the edge of the barrel that flows down is going to be aser. So we'll say, so this seems to say what? This seems to say nitzok aser. We'll say this is telling us that what? That a flow in fact creates a connection. Tirgim Rav Sheshes ba'oved kochavim. We'll say no. First of all, what's the case over here? The case over here says the Gemara is the case of an oved kochavim who responds. So we'll say the case is the oved kochavim has a barrel of wine. He is pouring from his wine into what? Into my cistern. So we'll say, what's the halacha? So therefore, again, the Brisa just said that the wine now in my cistern is going to become aser. Why is that? Da'asi mikocho. Because ultimately, again, the wine, I will say, is coming from his koach. Because remember, again, we spoke about that although the paradigmatic case of Yayin Nesach is sheikh, is where the akum puts his hand in the wine and he moves it around for the sake of Avodah Zara. We saw that midrabanan, I will say, even if he pours the wine and the wine is poured mikocho, ultimately again, the wine is going to be aser. So I'll say, so this is a case of where the ovid kochavim is pouring from the barrel into my cistern. That wine is coming into my cistern mikocho. That's why it's going to be aser. I ovid kochavim hama'ara afilu gava dechabis anami mitzar. So we'll say, if that's the case though, that the ovid kochavim is pouring it, we'll say, then what? Then even remember, what did the Brisa say? The Brisa just said that only the wine that comes from where? From the lip of the barrel and on, right, is going to be aser. But if the ovid kochavim is pouring it, we'll say, then what? Then why isn't the wine inside of the barrel itself aser as well? To which the Gemara says, I'm sorry, we'll say because at the end of the day, the fact that wine poured through the koach of an akum is going to be aser. That's midrabanan. When midrabanan goes there, so the Gemara says, koach tovi kochav midrabananu. The asir hahu did nafak librai gazru beirabanan. Hahu de legavai lo gazi beirabanan. We'll say the rabbis were only gozer on the koach when it comes out of the barrel, but they were not gozer from the koach that comes inside of the. They were not gozer. Say it differently. We'll say, let's take a step back. Real yayin nesech requires active agitation of the wine by the akum. Right? We added on to this that what? That if the akum pours the wine, that should become asra as well, mikocho. The Rabbanan will only gozer on kocho, which wine Rabosai? On the wine that comes out of the utensil. But we're not gozer on the wine which remains inside of the utensil. Therefore, Rabosai, in this case over here, where the akum is going ahead and pouring from his barrel of wine into my cistern, only the wine that comes out of the barrel will be asra al tziyai nesach, but the wine which remains inside will not be asr. So the Gemara says, Amaluhu Rav Chisda lahano sabisa. So we'll say ultimately again, Rav Chisda said, we'll say sabisa are wine merchants. Rav Chisda said to some of the wine merchants, Ki kailisu chamra la'ovdi kochavim katfi katufi. So inami naftzi nafutse. We'll listen to this. So Rav Chisda used to say to the wine merchants, when you are selling wine to an akum, here's what you should do. When pouring it, you should pour it in spurts. Pour it in spurts. Well, say, what was he saying to them? What was Rav Chisda saying to them? Make sure there's never an unbroken flow from your barrel to their utensil. Because we'll say if that happens, then what? Then Lamais again you're gonna have a problem of nitzuk chibur. So instead, what should you do? He gives them two possibilities. Katfi katuv means poured in spurts. What does it mean poured in spurts? poured in a way where the flow is detached from the utensil of origin, from your utensil. Now this other part, I don't exactly understand how it works, but natzvi means literally throw the wine. Rashi says, Yamdu me'rachok v'yizriku hayayin lekela. So you stand at a distance. I guess you take your barrel and you go like this. So you go and I guess you're not so worried about waste in that type of situation, but whatever it is, that's what you do. Amalu Rav lahano shavchai. We'll say ultimately Rava said to these shuvachai. We'll say so. Rashi says shuvachai are Paul and Yisrael harigilim la'aros yaim mikli al kli. These are people. We'll say these are pourers, Jewish pourers, right? Ki shafachisu chamra. When you go out and you pour wine, lo likrav ovdi kochav l'say ba'adaychu. Do not go ahead and allow an akum to help you in the pouring of the wine. Why? Dilma mashtilu, because maybe you'll get tired, right? Vishadisu le'alei v'ka'asim mikochol da'aser. Maybe you'll get tired. The akum will end up pouring it, and I will say what will happen. Ultimately, again, the akum will end up pouring the wine. I will say, as you just said before, if the akum ends up pouring the wine, then what's Rabbi saying? Then halacha lemaisa, what's going to end up happening? We just said before that any wine that is poured through the koach of the akum, the wine that comes out of the utensil, ultimately again is going to be aser because it's coming out kocho. So I'll say, so I'll tell you something interesting. I just want to mention this just before we run out of time. So the Gemara just says something quite fascinating, which is we already established before that any wine that is poured out the koach of the akum, is going to be aser. Right? Any wine that's poured out kocho, that is poured through his koach is going to aser. Which we'll say is our content. This is where cases for us come up with yayin nesech or stam yayin. We'll say, right, that if a non-Jew goes ahead and what? Pours the wine is going to be aser. I will say, the Gemara makes it sound like, however, that the isser is only on what? On the wine which comes out, but not on the wine which remains inside the bottle. So listen to this. So the Shulchan Aruch says as follows: Natal ovik ocham kli shal yayin. If the akum goes ahead and picks up a utensil of wine, v'gbiu v'yatza yayin, he lifts it up and the wine comes out. Even though he did not touch the wine, right? He did not agitate the wine. Ne'esar b'shtiya, the wine is asar b'shtiya. Shahari hayayin b'mikocho, because we'll say the wine was poured because of his koach. So we'll say, so now understand. Here's what's fascinating. Umashanisha b'kli asar gamke. But we'll say that which is asar left inside the bottle is going to be asar as well. Why? Mishum nitzuk. We'll say ultimately again, because it is connected through the flow. But say, see, want something fascinating? This is an issue of reverse flow. So say what this means as this follows: the akum picks up my bottle of wine, he pours it. That which he pours is going to be aser. Why? Because we'll say that's why. Why? Kocho. Now what we're saying is, now that kocho is aser, that which is left inside the bottle is also going to be aser. Why? Because that which is inside the bottle is connected out nitzuk through the flow to that which is coming outside of us. So this is a reverse flow issue. So I'll say, so again, that which is left in the bottle is going to be aser because it's connected to the flow coming out of the bottle. The flow coming out of the bottle, we'll say, is aser alts kocho, and that which is left inside the bottle is aser alts nitzuk havi chibur. We'll say, why is this important? Because this is the case that comes up contemporarily for us. All of Yayin Nesach cases are both say pretty much for ours, contemporarily boil down to this case. I have a bottle of non-mavushal wine that is touched by a non-Jew. The non-Jew part, so we'll say, so we'll see, interestingly enough, we'll see this doesn't talk about touching, right? But again, if at the end of the day, this is Higbio, he picks it up. Once the akum picks it up, then what Rabbi say? The wine itself is aser. The wine itself is aser. Once he pours it, now here's what's interesting. The case over here is he's talking about a case over here of pouring. So we'll discuss what happens if there's no pouring, there's just lifting. Right. But at least in a case of pouring, we see ultimately, again, that which comes out of the bottle is going to be asr alts kocho, and that which remains inside the bottle will be asr alts nitzuk. All right, so we'll stop over here for today. We'll pick up with the rest of the Gemara tomorrow.